are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's go! 5-on-4 for a while. Open man is Hawes. They can't find him. Instead, Jeremy Lamb, the dipsy-doo. Wow.
And that is tonight's guest, the great Eric Collins, on the call. This is Locked On Hornets here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And Justin's so excited. Is someone listening to the...
This is me? Oh, yeah.
It may be, yeah. David's so excited about the show. He's
want to
listening.
see it. I want to see it and be it.
He's listening to it right now. That's exciting. All right, we're coming to you. It's Hornets Talk for the hardcore fan, by the way. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we are coming to you live from the, if you can't tell, we are live, coming to you from the Gittimer.com studios in BEA.
I'm glad you blame that on Justin. It was me.
I can't blame, I can't blame anything on you. You have a wonderful denim jacket. I can't get a close-up of it, but boy, do I want to. Look at this thing. It's a beauty. I'm Doug Branson, joined by the man in the middle, David Walker.
Gosh, Doug, it is great to be here on a huge, may I say, monumental show.
This is a wonderful show we've got coming up. Holding down the left block, he covers the Hornets for ESPN Charlotte, Justin Thomas.
I'm excited to be here, guys.
I can tell.
Are you excited?
I can tell.
I like to keep it a little mellow.
Listen, if you
I'm
don't,
excited.
yeah, he's the mellow one. If you can't tell, that's his excited voice. That's the most excited I've ever heard him, and that's because we've got a great show ahead for you. You heard him at the top, Hornets play-by-play announcer and how do you do-ologist Eric Collins joins us on the Locked On line in just under 10 minutes. Plus, we're talking about the Hornets' decision to extend Cody Zeller. 4 years, $56 million for Cody Zeller. And David can't even sit still right now because it's the premiere of his very own sneaker segment. So that's coming up. The latest, and pedestrian.
We're doing that tonight.
Pedestrian stylings coming up on. I don't know. I don't know if I've run this name by you yet, David, but I'm calling it right now. This is a working title. D&D's Kick Picks.
I saw that on the rundown. It's not bad.
All right.
It's better than David Talks Male Shoes, right?
Yeah, that's terrible.
All right, that's no good. So that one's out.
Yeah, it's not great. All right, here we go. Let's launch. A reminder, it's the step. First of all, this is the Step Back 3. This is a segment we're going to do every show. We're going to look back on three things, one from each of us, on this past week of Hornets action and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, a couple of things that we have for you here. But a reminder, if you're watching live, you can comment on anything on this show or ask us any kind of question, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. You can chat with us there or on the At The Hive Facebook page. Okay, here we go. Three things we saw in the past week of Hornets action. Could be something we liked or we didn't like or made us laugh until we cried. David, what you got?
For me, it had to be the lamb chops, Doug, as you coined them. Actually, it was only one, right? It was the big block for Jeremy Lamb.
I think we have the video here. Let's take a look. This was against Miami. Driving. Nope. Oh, a little back door. Got Marco. But no. Yeah. Jeremy. No.
Not on this year's Jeremy Lamb.
This is a slow-mo.
And so this was part of, what's the score there, Doug? You have to use your super hearing.
It looks like it's all knotted at 79.
Okay. So that was a key moment in that game. I knew it was. But that's the type of effort we have been seeing out of Jeremy Lamb so far this season. And this hamstring issue has popped up. So hopefully he will be back soon. But I was starting to see that same thing the other night against Boston. Just more focused, more locked in. And, Justin, that's your guy.
Locked on even.
Locked on, if you will.
It is. I've always said the word for this season is health. And it's starting now. Heck, it started before the season with Zeller. But
well, Justin, what do the Hornets lose without Lamb for a week, maybe 2 weeks? And that's important because they've got some tough matchups coming up.
You use length. He's versatile, and you lose shooting. Mm-hmm. They lost the guys last year that could really stretch the floor, and he's a guy that he might not play defense from time to time. But we know one thing he's going to do. He's going to be engaged in offense. So I think this is time for Marco Bellinelli and Ramon Sessions to,
it's got to be,
pick it up.
Well, David, Justin makes a great point. Who do you think really has to step up? Is it Marco, or maybe do they look a little deeper in the rotation now and head to a guy like Travion Graham?
Well, I think it's going to fall on Marco, but also on Nick Batum. I mean, he has not shot the ball well that early in this season, so I think it's going to be on him. You know, you're getting what you need from Kemba. I mean, that's the thing I'm pleased about, because Kemba, even in the Miami game, horrible first half, right? Came back, hit some massive shots, and then he was really the guy that kept him in that Boston game. Played like an all-star against an all-star, at least on offense. But that's the thing you're seeing. And Nick has not played, at least scoring-wise, has not played up to that salary yet. So I think it's going to be on Marco. I think when Frank gets back, it's going to be on him, and again on Nick Batum.
Okay, 27% ain't gonna cut it.
No. Well, and we've got a segment coming up where we're going to talk a little deeper about that particular stat. But Justin, step back 3. Go ahead, step back, sir. What you got?
This weekend we got the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay.
You saw the healthy
Great
roster.
film.
You saw the Milwaukee game. You saw the bad, going down 19 to Miami, and then you saw the ugly against Boston. The
Was it ugly?
I will always say this: whenever Clifford comes to give a statement and doesn't take questions, it's ugly.
That's true.
That did happen. Yeah, Clifford made his statement, did not take questions from the media. He was very frustrated by that second half defensive performance. He used the term freelancing. Guys were freelancing, kind of not doing, exactly the plan when it comes to pick and roll coverages. And we profiled a few of those plays on our Twitter at Locked On Hornets, where guys were out of position on a particular ice play where Kemba tried to down the screen and send Isaiah Thomas, keep him out of the middle, send him down, and there was just nobody there. Frank or Batum missed that play. So it's those little mistakes. And with the Hornets offense still trying to find its identity, I think that the defense, that's why Clifford's upset, because I think at this point, in terms of the defense, he's demanding perfection.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step back to the man that everyone around the Hornets organization and Hornets fans are talking about today, and that's Cody Zeller. Not his extension, but his role in the comeback against the Miami Heat. He was central in their late first half run to dig the team out of a hole and prevent a week 1 losing record. He started that run, guys, with a huge screen for Kemba Walker, allowing him to get open and knock down the 3 that began that run. But then his just relentlessness to get to the basket. And we were worried about, without Al Jefferson, could the team get enough fouls on Hassan Whiteside? Well, Cody Zeller, in one of those and one plays that he knocked down, really helped the team get that 4th foul on Hassan Whiteside and keyed a second half run for sure. Okay, each week we're asking you our question of the show. Send us your response on Twitter at Locked On Hornets, and it will pop up on the screen next to us. Or if you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, just leave it in the comments and we'll read them later in the show. We've got these 2 gentlemen keeping an eye on it. This week's question: should the Hornets have extended Cody Zeller for 4 years, $56 million? Have your voice heard. Tweet us. What do you think? Cody Zeller, extension, good, bad? What do you think? Facebook us, chat on YouTube. A lot of $100 million men made on Monday. Cody Zeller, not one of them, but he does get the extension from the Hornets. All right, coming up, we've got a very special guest, Hornets play-by-play announcer and soon-to-be my personal hype man. I'm saving up money right now trying to hire him, Eric Collins. But first, there's this from the Locked On Podcast Network. Take a listen. This week on the Locked On NBA Podcast.
We take college players, high school players, who were the man, who took every shot their team ever took in high school. They go to college for a year. They may or may not have taken every shot. They then have the most difficult thing of their career, where they have to assimilate into NBA rosters as one of the guys, often being the 3rd or 4th option. We then send them to Summer League and tell them to shoot every time again. It's what the Jazz did with Trey Lyles and the Wizards did with Kelly Oubre. And then we take them back to the season and say, now I need you to assimilate into a team. It's a mystery to me on how we think this is going to work. every time.
Well, it explains, I think, why when I looked at this a few years ago, I found some pretty good predictive power to Summer League for rookies and basically zero predictive power for experienced NBA players.
I think that for all the talk of Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins is going to be the player that benefits the most of Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I think Towns would be he'd be great no matter what. And Wiggins, yes, I think Thibodeau right now has the chance to change his career path from, whether it's Carmelo Anthony, DeMar DeRozan has gotten thrown out there, to Kevin Durant.
Like, the East has me buckle. Like, everyone likes Indiana, and I'm missing on that one. So when we have these teams, so we have Isaiah likes New York. We have Bill Simmons is talking about how he loves Indiana. Zach Lowe calls Indiana a guaranteed playoff team. I'm actually not sure I think they're a playoff team. What's curious to me about what's happening here is 3 or 4 years ago, it used to be you had these kind of thinkers thinking one thing and these kind of thinkers thinking something else. But Zach Lowe and I view the game very similarly. You and Zach Lowe view the game very similarly. I think you have Indiana out too. What is going on that has us with such divergent opinions when, frankly, the groupthink is very small inside our league?
Subscribe to the Locked On NBA podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And welcome back to Locked On Hornets. Welcome back to Locked On Hornets here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's go straight out to the Locked On line where we have a very special guest. He is the Hornets television play-by-play announcer, and we're big fans of him here, Eric Collins. Eric, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great on a Tuesday night. Looking forward to tomorrow and getting back after it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Eric, the top story right now is the extension given to Cody Zeller, 4 years, $56 million. We won't ask you about the salary cap implications, but we want to ask you what you've seen out of – don't want to have you crunch any numbers this late at night, but we do want to ask you about what you've seen out of Zeller in the first 3 games that could justify this extension to Hornets fans that may need that justification.
Well, I think you kind of got to take money out the window. Money in today's day and age in the NBA, it just doesn't make any sense. We think of what a $10 million player should be, and it's just not the case anymore. You used to know, okay, there was only one Akeem Olajuwon, and he made his $10 million, and Michael made 15, and it all kind of trickled down from there. It's just the way of the world. There's just so much money right now in the NBA pie, and the way that it got cut apart is that it makes for some kooky contracts. But I think that Cody Zeller has proven himself to be a player that can be a contributor on a winning team. I think he plays both ends of the floor. I think guys like to play with him. I think he doesn't make a mistake that kills you. I think he's a guy who can defend a 5. He can defend a 4. I think he's still in an upward arc. I think he's got a chance to get significantly better. But I think he's a definite valuable piece on a quality winning team long term. So I think that I think this is a good thing for Cody, obviously. But I think it's a good thing for the organization. I think it's a good thing for Hornets fans.
Eric, you've gotten a close look at this team for 3 games now. A lot of people, including Coach Clifford, have talked about how different this team looks from last year's team, despite bringing back a lot of the core pieces. Is that what you're seeing as well?
You know what? Last year was just what I remember is the first couple of games, particularly the first couple of wins, the offense was just so smooth, and it was just so fun to see what Nick Batum could bring to the team. And the 3-pointers were all going in. And this year it's different. It's 2-1, which is a great record. Totally thrilled after playing 2 road games and 1 home game to be 2-1. But I think the offense is going to be a work in progress night in and night out. And I think the defensive consistency is just going to have to be there. I think that the team continues to block shots the way that it does, continues to average 97 points a game allowed. I think they've got a chance to be really good. But I'm still waiting for that just wonderful, beautiful quasi-European style basketball that I saw for a large chunk of last season.
Eric, Jeremy Lamb suffers a hamstring injury against Boston. Some people think he'll miss a week or possibly even 2 weeks. What do you think they're going to lose in Lamb's absence?
I hope it's only a week to 2 weeks. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything, but I think hamstrings are always tricky. I think I'd always prefer to see an injury to a finger or wrist, a foot, besides that hamstring, just because you just don't know. I think this is going to be a good year for Jeremy. I still think it will be. I think he played really well in Game 2 down in Miami, and Lord knows he's got just wonderful skill. The team believes in him. I know Coach Clifford never soured on him at all. And obviously Kemba Walker is his biggest fan, and I think that Kemba carries so much weight in that locker room, and when he's playing on the floor, you're not going to want to disappoint him. And Jeremy Lamb has got the skills, he's got the brain, he's got the want to not disappoint. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back. I'll be curious to see how the rotation changes in the couple of games with him being out. But I think when he does come back, if he comes back totally healthy, I think he's got a chance to be, just like Cody Zeller, a very important piece on a very good team.
Eric, who do you look at and say, okay, with Jeremy Lamb out, could be an extended amount of time, who do you look at and say this player will definitely need to step up and pick up Jeremy Lamb's slack?
Well, I think the knee-jerk would be Marco Bellinelli, just because they play similar positions, and Marco's actually got the experience. Guy's been in the league for 10 years, and you can fill it up. But I kind of think a wild card is going to be Frank Kaminsky. We haven't seen a lot of Frank so far this year, just that one game. But I think Frank has got the skill set to help on both ends of the floor. Maybe he's not going to guard the same positions that Jeremy Lamb was, but I think he's kind of got the expectation level as a Jeremy Lamb. You expect him to go out there, you expect him to contribute, you hope he's going to do really good things, but you don't know. He's that wild card that could get a lot better really fast, just like Jeremy Lamb. And I know that Frank worked really hard in the offseason, and I know what his track record was. I go way back to Chicago with Frank, and he was next to nothing in terms of the eyes of recruiters when he was a freshman, sophomore, and junior. And then he really just got better and better and better. And then the same thing in college. He was so far below the line as a freshman and maybe even a sophomore at Wisconsin. And then all of a sudden he became really good his junior year and the best player in the country his senior year. So it takes him a while to kind of get his feet wet, but when he does in a big way. So I think that Frank, if he has the jump that I think that he's going to have, and I think a lot of people around the league think he's going to have, I think he could pick up a lot of that slack.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about here, Eric, that adjustment from being the main guys last year at Wisconsin, coming in, trying to, fit in and still produce here in the NBA. I wanted to ask you a general basketball question because you've covered both college and pro. There seems to be this constant need for fans on either side to proclaim their version superior. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? And what would you say to bring those two sides together?
You know what? I think basketball is a great game, and I think that it's the perfect length. I think it's the perfect, display of athleticism and intensity. I love doing college basketball games. I did a lot of college basketball games over the years. My only knock on college basketball is, and it's also one of its benefits, is college basketball. There's only so many hours a week you can practice. There's only so much progress you can make throughout the course of the year and even over, the course of guys' careers, because there's so many ins and outs with freshmen leaving and freshmen coming in and guys staying 4 years and all those variables. But then again, that's also the great thing is there's always the chance of having a absolutely petrified 18-year-old at the free throw line shooting a 1-and-1 at the end of the game.
Right.
And you get a chance for him to do something really cool and memorable, or you also have a chance for him to be totally human. And that you don't get that in the NBA, because there's that consistent level of expectation and production in the NBA. And it's obvious, with all the practices, with all the shoot-arounds, with all the time and meetings that the guys have to be together, it is a polished product that you don't get at the college level night in and night out. You can get a really good effort at times at the college game, but the NBA it's pros. It's like watching professionals, the best in the world, do what they do night in and night out. And there's a special beauty to that. The synchronicity and the teamwork and the fellowship. And, that's the cool thing with me is there's a rhyme, there's a method to the madness. If you watch closely enough, these guys are really doing some intricate things and changing what intricate things they're doing night in and night out.
We're here with Hornets television play-by-play announcer Eric Collins. Eric, let's shift gears and talk about the actual work that you do, your process in the booth. Walk us through your game day preparation for a Hornets game.
Well, the game day preparations actually start the day before. I'm old school. I don't do the computer thing in terms of I don't have a laptop in front of me. I like to have all my work in front of me. It's just like the world's biggest open book test. So I'd just like to have all the information that I could ever possibly need available to me and written down in front of me, because that's the way that I study and I remember things. So I create these old-fashioned boards out of manila folders, and I write down names and numbers and heights and weights and hometowns and colleges, and I find out as many minute details as I can, just because that's what really kind of gets me going. My blood starts to really flow, when I find out that, whoever played 8th grade year AAU ball with another guy who no one would ever even possibly associate the two being together. So I do my prep the night before. The morning of, I go to the shoot-around. I guess they're called game preps now. Someone in the NBA decided to change the name. But I go to the shoot-arounds in the morning, and I can watch Coach Clifford and his staff go over the game plan, and I get a chance to talk to the guys, and I get to fill in my stories. So if I, found out something the night before and I needed confirmation that Marvin Williams' middle name is really Gay.
Yep.
Well, how the heck is Marvin Gaye? Where did that story come from? And he'll fill it in, and all of a sudden that augments my story. And then a big thing that I learned a long time ago, and I learned this from Mike Tirico, of all people. When you're on the road, you got to step away, and you got to spend an hour and 15, do whatever you need to do, but just get away from the game and just do something that a local would do. So if you're in New York, go for a walk in Central Park. If you're in Orlando, it's the middle of January and you're stuck in cold weather wherever you are, just get outside and have lunch outside and see what other people are doing. So I'm a big believer in stepping away and finding out those kind of cool, hey, this is where we are stories, and all of a sudden you never know, that couldn't find its way into a broadcast when you could mention that I went to the Washington Monument today. It's the world's largest obelisk. Did you know it used to be the largest building in the world until the Eiffel Tower passed the Washington Monument? Cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then
knowledge drops.
Yeah. And then I left to get to the arena early. That's my favorite part of the day. The absolute favorite part of the day is being around an arena as it starts to fill up, being around other announcers, being around the arena personnel, and just getting a chance to talk ball. I used to do Major League Baseball, and that is absolutely deliriously exciting, getting a chance to go down to the batter's box or the batting cage and just rub elbows with Mark McGwire and have him talk hitting, or just getting a chance to talk to whoever and just having them fill in the gaps from the story that you remember from 1982 when you were a kid growing up.
Wow.
So I love game prep for me. I like the 3 hours before the game leading right up to the game. But we have kind of a weird situation. Not weird. It's a wonderful situation, but it's a unique situation where we do it all. We do the pregame show, we do the postgame show, we do the game, we do halftime. So I get pretty darn busy about 45 minutes before the game, and we really don't stop. So I do have that sweet spot, about 2 hours until 1 hour before the game, where I just so enjoy talking basketball with people who are living it and people who are doing it right now. And then we roll up our sleeves and we just talk, and we don't stop talking until it's all cooked and done.
Well, it's not only unique in that respect, Eric, but it's also unique because you are part of a 3-person booth. What were the challenges in year one with the 3-person booth, and what did you learn that you've taken in to this season?
You know what? I've always really enjoyed the 3-person booth just because it helps from what we're doing. Like this, everyone knows what story we're doing. Everyone knows where we're coming from. We spend so much time together, and I think that really helps when you're going to do 82 games. I get a chance to sit next to Stephanie and Dell in the morning at shoot-around. I get a chance to be with them as we get ready for the game, and then when we're doing it, there's a consistency. I know what Stephanie's experienced, and I know what Stephanie, figured out X's and O's wise when she went to shoot-around. And I was eavesdropping on a conversation with Dell when Dell was talking to a former teammate of his rookie year out in Utah. And they were telling a story about what it was like to play against the George Karl team. So there's all these different things that because we're so connected at all times, I get a way better chance of understanding who they are. Now, that's the great thing. The bad thing is we also spend so much time together that sometimes I think we need to push each other to a little bit of extremes. And I kind of want to find out more information that Stephanie could offer me. And I want to find more information that Dell can to offer me. So it's always, that's the big key right now this year too, is I want, we're friends and we all love the game, and we all love the Hornets and what we do. But now I want to get everyone maybe a little bit further out of their comfort zone and find out something that we didn't know, because I think it not only helps me, but it helps the people at home as well. If we kind of push ourselves out there and maybe it's, I don't know. I just think that if we try and do a little bit differently and try and think a little bit further outside of the box, all three of us, I think that'll stimulate all of our different interests, and I think that'll stimulate the growth, which I think people will see and hear when they're at home.
Well, we can definitely respect that, Eric, because that's why we do this podcast and we broadcast it live on YouTube and Facebook. We wanted to kind of do a little something different on the podcast front, so we definitely respect that.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, Eric, you've got such an interesting group there. If you think about it, because you got Dell, who's basically the first family of basketball right now, right? He's got Steph and the Suns playing. And then you have Stephanie, who's broken barriers in her own right and made her mark on the game. And then you've got a coach like Steve Clifford, who's really come up through the ranks and has been in coach superstars, been around different teams. And then there's Patrick Ewing sitting on the bench, who has been a superstar, played on the dream team, seen things that no one else has seen. Who has the best basketball stories that you've heard?
Wow. Well, you know what? Not only, we'll get to that in a moment. There's some wonderful basketball stories, no doubt about that. But just the access to get those stories, it's there, 100%. My other experience in the NBA was, maybe it's just because I was younger, and I definitely was the last person in the party. But I was the sideline reporter and pregame guy and all that kind of stuff for the Chicago Bulls back in the late 90s, back when Michael and Scotty and those guys won their last championship.
Pretty cool.
So I was the last person there, and they had already won 5 championships, and I got hired for the last year. So everyone's kind of set in their ways, and I was the new guy, and they probably didn't want to say, come on over here and let's rehash everything. But it was a tough crowd. Phil Jackson was no Steve Clifford in terms of his accessibility, in terms of his interest in talking to the media. He's not a whimsical guy at all. You gotta be buttoned up and ready to go, and he'll give you exactly what he wants to give you and nothing more. So that was my first experience of the NBA. And
that was your first one? Jeez.
Wow. Oh yeah, I'm surrounded by Hall of Famers left and right, and I'm this young pup, and it was tough. It was tough. It was great. It was great, man. I traveled with those guys, and I saw a lot of really awesome things. And I'll never forget, I saw guys who are in the Hall of Fame now, and I would have bet dimes to donuts that their knees were shaking when Michael was just walking past them in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Karl Malone is a brilliant player, and he is, there's probably only 20 guys that are in the same conversation with him in terms of quality of player. But I saw 10 feet away his eyes darting back and forth when he knew that Michael was about to take the ball from him. It was It was amazing. Some of the things that those Bulls teams did just by throwing their shoes out there. So that was really cool. But in terms of access and in terms of hearing stories, I was low on the list of priorities. So I would say Clifford's got great stuff.
Yeah.
Steve Clifford's got wonderful stuff. He just name drops left and right, but it's cool name drops, and it's not like he's it's like I had dinner to Bill Russell. He's just quoting assistant coaches, from 17 years ago when he first got in the league. And he's just dropping Stan Van Gundy-isms. And he's looking Duck Cheney-isms and John Cheney-isms and old basketball minds, And I really love that stuff, man, because it just scratches me right where I itch. I really like the stories that he tells. And I think he is – when I first got here and he got the contract extension, I was like, Steve Clifford, great, okay. Really, extension, really? Was there? What did he do during this? He obviously did wonderful things.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I didn't really know who he was, and just from an outsider's perspective, I was like, oh, okay. Now that I've gotten a chance to watch the way he coaches, to watch the way that he deals with his team, to watch the way that he deals with the media, he is the entire package. And you'd be a fool not to give him as long a contract as you want, because he's got a good message, and the message resonates because people listen to him because they respect him, and he's interesting. Those are the two big things. And I think he's an absolute gem, and I'm so glad that he's committed long-term to this Hornets franchise, because you can't do any better than him, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone, first of all, and kind of not knowing maybe who Clifford was or some of his credentials when he came in. I mean, a lot of fans probably didn't either, but I'll tell you what, we could listen to him talk basketball and go on for pressers for days. Yeah, I mean, I
could listen to him talk baseball for days.
That's right.
And
Big O's fan,
Baltimore fan. And I'm not even a soccer guy at all, but I know that if I wanted to, he could tell me and be interesting about, English soccer for days and days and days. He talks about English Premier League soccer with Nick Batum all the time, and it's really a huge gift. Is he's able to talk on everyone's level what they want to talk about to some degree. The foreign players in the league, the younger players, the older players in varying backgrounds. He finds something and he's able to go, and it humanizes him and gives him a relationship with I think a lot of other coaches may have an issue with, have a hard time doing, but he has zero issues.
Well, Eric, we're going to get you out of here real soon, but we got to talk about this. You're known by Hornets fans and fans of this show for your catchphrases and your exciting calls. None more famous than after a big Troy Daniels 3 in Sacramento last season. We called it the miracle after midnight. We've got the tape. Let's take a listen to the call.
Hornets down 2. Daniels! Troy Daniels!
Yes.
Love it. Amazing, Eric. It just lifted the game up to a mythic level. What can you tell us about that moment, and how much thought goes into those type of big play calls, or is it just pure raw emotion?
Oh yeah, no thought goes into it all. I spent 6 hours before we broadcast thinking about all these different stories I could tell and little anecdotes and tidbits, but I never think about choice of words. I never think about any of that kind of stuff. But I do remember that game because I was absolutely terrified. The minute the game ended, my voice was darn near close to being gone. And I think, if memory serves, we were in Sacramento, and the Panthers were playing the NFC Championship game, or maybe it was the divisional playoff. But I'd watched the game the day before, and I think maybe I'd had, maybe one too many. I should have had more water than beer.
Sure. We've all been there.
So, and the game was late at night. I was probably dehydrated, and the game, of course, goes into all those overtimes. And I'm really pumping my voice. And I woke up the next day, and I said, my goodness, I don't think I can do it. We went down to Utah, and our next game was against the Jazz in Salt Lake City, and I was terrified the entire day that I wasn't going to be able to have my voice, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if we had a backup plan. So if there was actually a student of vocal range, they would notice that in that Utah game, there was very little vocal range. I was just straight down the middle, and I was not going to go up or down just because I didn't know if my voice was going to make it the whole day. But that was a really fun game. I love that Sacramento. I love Troy Daniels.
Yeah.
That guy could stroke it.
I mean, yeah,
absolutely stroke it.
And you saved the best for last, Eric. And you had Hornets players fouling out. Your voice almost fouling out. But you saved it, and just an epic call. We'd be lying if we said we weren't huge fanboys of your calls and catchphrases. You've inspired us so much, Eric, that we each have a call. David and I have a call we'd like to float your way. We're competitive here.
I'll use tomorrow. What do we got? Sure.
All right. Well, don't make promises until you hear this. We're competitive here, so it would mean a lot if you did select a winner between David and I. All right, David, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Now stick with me here, Eric. Now, I appreciate the manners in which you put forth. Your how do you do, I think, is the classic to me, and it's just nice. It's like a how do you do. So I couldn't come up with anything that catchy, so I went with a little more formal. Now it goes a little something like this. That is how you properly introduce yourself to your neighbor.
Don't use. All right,
So it would go a little something like this. Kemba swings the ball around, finds Batum, throws it up top to Zeller. That is how you introduce yourself to your neighbor.
I don't know. I don't know about that. All right.
Okay.
I got an actual one here for you. All right, here's
that's an actual one.
All right. When a small guard lays down a ferocious jam, I've got one for you here. All right. Lamb with the steal, and oh my, hit him with the backcourt brawn, the Slim Slam.
Crickets. There's crickets on that one.
It was
backcourt brawn, the Slim Slam.
The Slim Slam. Anyway.
We can text these to you. So
yeah, we've got about we've got about 90 of these, so don't worry. We're going to text these all to you, Eric. So what do you think? Slim Slam or introduce yourself to your neighbor?
I think introduce yourself to your neighbor.
No.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, that's
Tune
okay.
in Wednesday.
Slim Slam, you guys are in the business. I would absolutely screw that up. That's a total tongue twister. You got to stay away from the Slim Slam.
Well, that's true. You got to get that. What's the vocal warm up? Unique New York.
How many hats does Gary have?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for joining us, Eric. Thanks for playing along with us. Good luck with the rest of the season. You bring a lot of excitement to Hornets broadcast, and you brought it for this show. Love to have you back later this season.
Hey, anytime you guys want, man. You guys got my number. I'd love to.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Great stuff there from the great Eric Collins. Just some interesting things there. in that.
Maybe he has the best stories. That story was amazing.
That was a great.
The Bulls into their run being there. Can you imagine? That'd be like Justin just down there on the sidelines with MJ.
Oh man, I could. Oh man.
Can you imagine? Like he said, it's not exactly like Clifford. It's Phil Jackson at the height of their just.
I see
royalty.
Jordan sitting across from our seats in the arena, and I get a couple of butterflies. I'll be honest. I'm supposed to be a professional. I understand that. Here's a couple of interesting things. The do as the locals do. His attitude on, going to an away game and experiencing that, and you can hear that in the broadcast, David. He brings those tidbits.
He does
very often, and then the way they push each other. I think that's very interesting as they enter year 2, trying to get in depth. And, there are a lot of broadcasts that do that. People are already laughing at my Slim Slam on YouTube and Twitter. The Slim Slam! Come on! It's because
Justin was with me.
They're small.
You tried.
I was with you. I was literally sweating last night trying to think of something. This is very disappointing.
Well, you're talking to the master. I mean, it's hard to come up with something.
He loved yours, David.
Gosh, can you imagine?
He beat you, Doug.
He's probably watching. He's probably watching the broad. See, you get prejudice because of your hair.
Oh, stop it with the hair. Come on.
No computer. He doesn't use a computer.
I love that. He's old school, Justin.
And he knows Mike Tirico.
He apparently knows everybody.
Dude, Tirico's like the GOAT. He does everything.
That was great. Thank you to the Hornets. Thank you to Eric Collins. Fantastic. Because really, we talked about this, Justin, last year, that Sacramento game, calls like that, I feel like were why Eric Collins was brought in.
Yeah.
To make that call, and certainly nothing against Steve Martin. We love Steve Martin. He's a hero. But they brought in Eric Collins, and he brought that energy. And that game in particular, look, night had turned into day. That game had gone double overtime. I mean, people were tired. People were a little woozy. And when he hit the high note on that Troy Daniels call, it was like the collective energy of the Hornets fan base and his energy had finally met on the same plane. I mean, it was magic.
The excitement, like as a fan, if you're watching the game, that's exactly how you feel.
Yeah. Oh.
And then to hear it broadcast, it's great. I like Eric. He brings a ton of energy. He's real personable. Like you feel it. Like it could be a dry game, and listen to him call a game, you'll be like, it's not that bad after all. Like, things are going to get better.
All right, we've got your sneaker segment coming up, David. But first, let's get to the question of the show. Was the Cody Zeller extension the right move for the Hornets? 4 years, $56 million. A few smart basketball guys certainly think so. Adi Joseph of Sporting News called it savvy. Chris Kroger from WFNZ certainly liked it. Matt Moore from CBS Sports liked the deal better than the Minnesota deal for Gorgie Jang. The Vertical's front office expert Bobby Marks tweets, great value on the Zeller deal based on first-year salary below his free agent cap hold, and it keeps Charlotte below the tax line for next season. Not the cap, but the tax line. That from Bobby Marks. Any comments on YouTube or Facebook before we get out of this segment?
Nothing on Facebook at the moment.
All right, so on YouTube, I'm seeing something. Who is this? Mark?
Yeah, Mark, our buddy Mark. Not a big fan of the signing. They are now in a situation where they have limited flexibility in the next 2 years. Doug, something you've mentioned. If the MKG and Zeller don't improve, they run stagnant. But that's a great last point because you look at the last few extensions they've done, the MKG and this one especially. But even the Kemba one, going back when they extended him, it was a bit of a trust deal. I mean, they were counting on these guys to get better. So I mean, that's definitely a part of it.
I'm reserved about this deal for several reasons, and I talked about it a lot this morning. So go check out the this morning show if you want to hear sort of my deeper thoughts on it. But I'm reserved about it not because I don't think the deal is good. I think it's a savvy deal if taken on its own. $14 million a year is the new $9 million, and for a player of Cody Zeller's ilk, who he's solid. I know I hate that word,
but that word,
I do. But it describes Cody Zeller perfectly because he's good, not great on both ends of the floor. He's a balanced player, something that Steve Clifford likes. Clifford was asked about it today at practice, and he said, he's a smart player. He's professional. He's hardworking. And so, is that worth $14 million a year for a guy that already knows the system? Probably, because it's not as easy as we all think to find guys who do put in the kind of work on his game that Cody Zeller does. Is he necessarily going to have a crazy high ceiling? No. But he is improving. We've seen improvements in the first couple of games. Here's why I'm reserved. That was a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be reserved, but here's why I am. Because when you stack it with MKG's deal, $13 million, when you stack it with Kemba's deal, $12 million, long-term deals, and then Nick Batum's deal, suddenly the Hornets are cash-strapped for not just next season, but seasons down the line. They're not going to be able to hold on to Roy Hibbert. And I feel like, look, if you love this core of players and you love winning 45 to 50 games a year, then you love this deal and you love this core. But I feel like, I guess it's part of it is me. Part of me thought that they had one more Nick Batumian move left in them, one more player of Batum's stature that they could sneak into the Hornets organization and then re-sign. This eliminates that, and I think
for now, right? I mean,
for now,
if things stay the same, right, Justin? Because you never know what's going to change. I mean, but I think you're right. They're trying to build a core. They're trying to put together a core that's going to win 45, 50 games a year and build that success. So then they can, make one big move if it presents itself, I guess.
Justin, last thought.
I'm actually a fan of it, and I agree with you, Doug, on it being David being on a trust deal, because it's
right.
There's a culture of guys that they like, and then guys they believe in, and Cody has gotten better each year, and now he's not going to have a crazy ceiling, but in also being strapped for cash, they believe that if you keep this group together. And they get better collectively every year, you're not going to go out and have to make a nice extra move because you say, we have it all in-house. We have our core guys locked up, and we're ready to roll. And I just even like watching the guys work, they see that in Cody. Say, okay, we saw what happened with Kimba. We saw him get better. We see what MKG is doing, and we see him getting better. And Cody, you're cut from that same cloth. And we feel like if we lock you up, you're going to continue to do the same thing, and we're going to have a bright future.
And Daniel, we'll get Daniel the last word here. Daniel likes the deal. That's below market value, and another great deal made by Trader Cho, also a tradable contract. Well, Daniel, I'll say this. It's tradable if he continues to develop. If he doesn't, if this is it, then I don't think it's that tradable. And Daniel finishing up there, I'm not advocating for a trade, but that's an added benefit. So we'll talk about this more, obviously, as the days and weeks go on. Keeping an eye on Cody Zeller's continued development. He has 1.7 blocks over 3 games. Small sample size, but he's learning that verticality. I think Roy Hibbert and Patrick Ewing have taught him a thing or two.
And I'll say this is the last thing on Cody because I've called for him to be stronger just overall. But, I mean, that Whiteside game, he did not back down. He was sat on. He couldn't get up.
Yeah.
He did not back down from Whiteside, and that is a big guy. And that's going to continue to be a thing. So, I think that was good to see. There was no back down. Just got to get more consistent. Maybe hit 1 or 2 of those jumpers because they're going to be there.
All right, David, it's time for D&D's Kick Picks.
Ooh, a new segment.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, we're ready. Okay.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to roll.
Is my man Daniel on the line?
No. Well, I don't have any music for this one. Yeah, let's get Daniel Coughlin in here. Daniel, how are you?
Hey, guys. Doing well. How are you?
Awesome.
Smiles.
So for this new segment, guys, we are bringing in our friend Daniel Coughlin of At the Hive and many, many, many other internet sites because he, like myself, and maybe some other people in the room, have a true sickness when it comes to sneakers. Isn't that right, Daniel?
Yeah. My wife isn't in the same room as me, but I can feel her glaring at me through the walls.
That's on purpose. He was like, listen, I can't. He's like whispering in, hey, guys, all right, let's talk about some sneakers.
Exactly. We got to do this.
I am familiar with that glare, and I know it well. So let's get right into this. I want to talk about a few of the big players at the start of the season here, and then some of our picks for some of the good shoes that are coming out right now, Daniel. Every year, to start the season, we typically see some players debut new shoes. Nike's played with that release date a little bit, but this year we're seeing right out of the gate the Steph Curry 3. Now, the last time we saw Steph Curry, he was getting unloaded with memes upon meme with his Steph Curry 2 Low, the dad edition. But, hey, they sold. But, Daniel, where do you stand on this Steph Curry line? It's been wildly successful, really, for what they've tried to do. But are you liking any of these, and the 3 especially?
My take on it is, as the saying goes, they're really living off the strength of the name, to borrow a Wu-Tang reference there.
Yes.
What they're doing is I haven't seen the 3 in person yet. So that's the difficult. It looks to me, like the problem was right. It looks really similar to his last shoe, which you see with a lot of developments for players, like Derrick Rose with Adidas, right? Like each year it was a subtle change more than it was like a radical change after he got into his first and second year of sneakers. And my hope is that they're going to improve the quality. I think Curry is clearly deserving of his own shoe. I mean, you look at some of the other people who have shoes. I mean, if Carmelo Anthony can have a shoe, he's a great player, but if he can have a shoe, then I think Steph Curry definitely has earned the right to have his own signature model as well. So
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing, right? The kids are buying these, but to your point, like the first couple of models, you couldn't find them. Like the MVP models, they dropped. Like you couldn't get them maybe in Charlotte, maybe in San Francisco. But, I mean, that's a different scenario. But, yeah, you kind of want them to step their game up design-wise for me. I mean, I've never even seen this shoe in person either, but I'm getting the thumbs down from my man Justin over here. So we'll move on to the next one. This one I kind of do like. This sneaky signature from James Harden a year after getting unloaded with, $200 million on his front doorstep from Adidas. They finally come out with the shoe, and I kind of like it. Daniel, have you seen this Harden too?
It's dope.
Or this Harden one? Yeah, Justin likes it.
Yeah, you're not alone on that. That is a shoe that looks real good.
Yeah, and from what I hear,
the whole new
go ahead.
The Adidas line in general, what they've been doing, the Lillard 2s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a big fan. I know it got roasted when that Andrew Wiggins shoe came out, but that crazy explosive prime knit.
Yeah,
I mean that's the boost. I think the boost. The problem is you're going to have skeptics until people try it, and I think with having name brand, people being so committed to to their particular brands and loyal, that the boost might not get out there to as many people. But yeah, that Harden shoe looks so nice.
Yeah, I like that one, and all the colorways. Right, we've got this picture of this like salmon toad one that's coming up here. I don't know what the name of that one is, but I like that one. And
I believe it's salmon toad.
Salmon toad, yeah, salmon toad one. But of course it's a low, but it looks good. I mean, they just went the right way. If they want to take their time and put up stuff like that, I'm all for it. The last guy that I want to bring up, we actually don't have a picture of this shoe, folks, but we do have a picture of what was supposedly to be the.
Is it this one? You'll have to kind of tell
me.
The
LeBron 14.
All right.
Daniel, did you see this leaked photo of this black boot that looks like Batman's throwaway?
It does. It's got some hiker in it. That's for sure.
It seems to be the new trend, right? They're trying to go lumberjack here. Really cash in on that new hipster wave or whatever. Next thing you know, they're all going to have beards too, right?
Yeah.
That massive wood cutting market.
Do you have any hope that the LeBron 14? Because I wasn't a huge fan of the 13, and he's wearing the Soldier, until they get something else out, right? But do you have any hopes that the new signature for LeBron will be a step in the right direction as far as, I don't know, just aesthetics?
I'm reserved on it. I feel like I think I don't know. I don't feel like, how do I say this? It looks like a shoe that is innovative, right? Because it doesn't look like a lot of other basketball shoes.
Yeah.
But it also looks like they took some of the most popular components of one of their most popular shoes, the Air Jordan 11, and then they combine that with essentially what you have on the Adidas Ultra Boost, the sock that basically that knit that they have around your foot,
right? But
especially right around the heel and on the tongue, like it kind of looks like they just took those two things and maybe some laces off an Adidas Yeezy. So I feel like it almost looks like what you'd expect more from an Adidas shoe than from a Nike shoe. So in that sense, I guess maybe it's an innovation, right?
All right. Yeah. All right. One more.
All right, Daniel, to wrap this thing up, Black Friday is coming up. We're going to skip over our summer selections because summer's gone. Black Friday is coming up. Always a big release for the sneaker fans out there. What's the one shoe you're looking for to pick up during the holiday season?
Holiday season. I'm going to try and grab a few, right? But my primary is going to be a pass on that Black Friday, even though the True Blue with the original Nike Air branding. I'm pass on that because the Space Jam 11s. You have to go with them. Nike just today through Foot Locker dropped some of those Space Jam shirts, like the officially licensed merchandise.
Yes.
And supposedly the 11 is going to have the 45 stitching instead of the 23 on the heel, and they're going to make the color more true to what he wore in that, in the actual like movie.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
hot
being a person still can't let go of the 90s, so I got to go for that.
I like this one. The one we're showing on screen right now. I know you can't see it, Daniel. I don't know what it is, but I'd buy these.
So Daniel, Doug's got up the band ones right now, and
I'd take those.
It's so funny because I got a text from him when they were coming in. He's like, "Yeah, I might pick some of these up," and I was just like, "All right."
I like the retro. Isn't it just the Air Jordan Retro or whatever? I like that.
Yeah.
I'll probably grab those for myself.
I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know much about shoes. I don't know if you knew this. Not
no,
shoes.
That's a good choice. It's just
forte.
you can't find them unless you know someone or have kidnapped someone's
Who's
child.
someone? Know someone.
Well, Daniel knows people. He's still got hookups, but I'm gonna go the True Blue 3, Daniel. That's my pick, folks. For the holiday.
Shoe.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get to cover all of the shoes, Daniel. So we'll definitely have you back on for another sneaker segment. D&D's Kick Picks. We'll have some music next time too. Thanks so much, Daniel, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Have a great night, guys.
Not horrible. Not horrible.
No, listen, this is live. That's what people have to understand. This is all new. Like, I think I boinked the beginning of that Eric Collins segment, but we got through it. I mean, it's like SNL. Sometimes that's part of the energy and the fire that goes into this.
If anyone has sneaker questions, email those to D&D. I'm just kidding. We don't have an email for that. But seriously,
I can make one.
If that segment wasn't horrible, maybe we'll do a few more. And maybe the Hornets will wear some cool stuff. So we'll focus that.
Well, you make a great point, David. If you like something on this show, tweet us at Locked On Hornets or buzz at lockedonhornets.com. That's our email address. If you don't like something, tell us that too, because we want to know what you think. We're trying to figure this whole thing out. And so we got some good reviews on the interview that we did with Eric Collins. But if there's something you go, I don't know about this denim jacket.
Denim jacket. It's a bold choice.
I like it.
It's fall.
That's right.
It's in.
Okay,
it's
speaking of segments we're trying out, this is a new one for the entire show. It's called Phase or Stays. It's time to get this new segment launched. We'll lay out some stats or things we're seeing and determine whether it's an outlier or a trend, whether it's a phase or whether it's here to stay. This is the perfect time to do this, guys, only 3 games into the season, because honestly, we have no idea if these small sample sizes are real or fake. So first up, we'll do these real quick. Nick Batum's shooting percentages. It's been a struggle to begin the season for this highly paid guard. 27.3% from the field, 21.1% from beyond the arc. David, is this a phase or a stays?
That's a phase. That's a phase, fellas. That's not the type of player Nick Batum is. We haven't seen these numbers since he was injured his last year in Portland. So I'm going to say he gets back in the groove of things and becomes that second complement or that complementary player to Kemba Walker.
All right, Justin, phase or stays?
Too talented. It's a phase.
I think it's a phase too, and I think here's the big thing. He talked about this after practice today. Jeremy Lamb's absence will cause some guys, I think, to really lock in.
Yep.
And get
Lock
going.
on, too.
Locked On Podcast Network. All right, next up, assist to turnover ratio, 2.56. It leads the league, the Hornets assist to turnover ratio. They are definitely sharing the ball, but a lot of it has to do with an absurdly low 9 turnovers per game. Is this a phase or a stays, David?
That's a stays. This team was excellent at holding on to the ball last year. That's a staple of Clifford's offense. And with the way they want to move the ball when they're going well, they should be able to still get some of those assists, especially with Batum and once he gets more involved in the offense. So that's a stay for me.
Clearly a stay. Under Clifford, they rarely turn the ball over. I think for the past 3 years, they've been number 1 in the league. And
3 years in a row.
Yeah, he don't like for the ball to stick, so no turnovers, the assists will keep going.
3 years in a row. I think they make it 4 years in a row. That's definitely a stays for me. And I think it's impressive because their passing, to me, has looked better than it has in 3 years. I think their bigs are passing at a rate that we haven't seen in 3 years.
Especially to start, right?
Yeah, and when bigs pass, sometimes that's where the turnovers happen.
And they're not scoring yet. So the assists should go up.
Exactly. Yeah, there are definitely some missed assists. All right, here's an NBA one. The top 3 teams in three-point shooting right now are the Spurs, the Grizzlies, and, get this, the Chicago Bulls. Phase or stays?
That's what we should ask Daniel about. How are they doing that?
Hey.
That is a phase, my friends. There's no effing way the Bulls continue to shoot like that.
I can't even believe it. They've scored, 105, 118, and 110? clearly a phase. D-Wade, Rondo, nor Butler can shoot.
Now, the Grizzlies are attempting 26.7 and still hitting them at a 43.8 clip. It's absolutely amazing. Meanwhile, the Hornets are shooting a below average 29.9% from three and attempting 25.7 per game. That will have to change if the Hornets, that will definitely need to be a phase for the Hornets. All right, finally, guys, there's this for Phaser Stays. It's a Gatling gun T-shirt cannon that the Hornets premiered against Boston. Look at this thing. First of all, we posted this on Instagram. It has 14.7 thousand views, which just confirms every theory we've had about how excited people get for T-shirt tosses. But look at this thing. Amazing.
What they did was, how can we amp people up even more? And it's more speed, more T-shirts, more revolutions.
And 90s sitcom, more power. So, Phaser Stays. Justin, what do you think? Is the Gatling gun T-shirt here to stay?
Oh, it's staying. I have a bad history with these things. I usually get hit once a year with a shirt.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't have the greatest of history, so I'm going to have to keep my head on the swivel this season.
Well, you make a good point.
Yeah.
This could be a phase if there's a lawsuit.
That's why I'm going phase. This thing gets out of control one time and goes directly into the front row. We're not going to see any more T-shirts.
Look at this. Yeah, this is a powerful weapon. They have to point that thing way up.
You've got a man in a bug outfit operating this thing, okay?
Does he have a license to operate that thing?
Someone's going to get decked. I just hope it's not me.
That's a slip slam. All
right. It'll stick, Doug. It'll stick.
I'm going to try to work it in there. Oh, God. All right. Let's. Can we get one more comment here? Here's one from Mark. Would love to hear your guys' take on how big having a guy like Spencer Hawes is on this team, a guy who may not play one game, start another. So he doesn't play one game, starts another, and then plays big minutes off the bench. They have a few players like this, David, and it is important.
Yeah, you've already seen Spencer come in and give some big minutes in that Miami Heat game. He was huge, but that's the type of guys that Clifford and this group have put together. Veterans, experienced. They know what they can get when they go in there, and they know if Spencer's good for 2, maybe 3 floaters in the lane, but they're going to overlook those. We kid with Spencer, but I thought he was fantastic in that Miami game, and he was really good to start the season. So I think, he is he's a valuable piece, and he may not play a lot, but you saw that even like last year, Hansbrough almost never played, but when they went in, he banged and did what they asked him to do. So that's what they formed here.
A lot of people don't think of depth when they think of good teams, and you need guys like this. Clifford raved about Brian Roberts, that was always ready, Troy Daniels, and Spencer Hawes is one of those guys. In order to be good, you're going to deal with injury, and you need depth. And Spencer Hawes, when his name is called, he's usually ready.
I've seen Spencer Hawes do some head-scratching things on a basketball court, but one thing that I've never seen Spencer Hawes do is give anything less than 100%. Yeah. I mean, he's out there, he's intense, and I think that intensity sometimes, that aggressiveness can sometimes lead him astray, especially in his post offense. But he gives it everything he has, and especially for a utility guy, it's just absolutely just one of those things you can't replicate. Okay, time now. We've got time for one last thing, and this one comes. We'll do one more Halloween thing, even though we're past Halloween. This was from the Hornets Twitter account, and they also have some video up of it on Hornets.com. Cody Zeller, Spencer Hawes, and Travion Graham and Hugo visiting a children's hospital, dressing up as some Avengers. Looks like Travion is Iron Man. And then we got Captain America, Cody Zeller.
Spencer has to be
Thor. Okay.
And Spencer is Thor.
Okay.
I think it's
Hugo. He didn't dress up?
No.
Not a fan.
Here's what I noticed. Poor Travion Graham. He's got to wear the mask. He's like the one guy that the rookie has to wear the full mask.
He's lucky he got Iron Man.
Like we can't really confirm that that's Travion Graham other than they tell us it's Travion Graham.
What if Travion is in the Hugo outfit and then Hugo is Iron Man?
I mean, it's
a little dipsy-do.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks for listening to this live edition of Locked On Hornets, and thanks to our guest, the great Eric Collins. A hat tip and a how do you do to the gift guru Kurt for helping us out with some video on this episode, some pics and vids. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. Subscribe to us on iTunes and stay up to date on the Hornets every day. For David, I'm Doug. Go Hornets. Go America. Let's swarm Charlotte. See you tomorrow.